Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Parts Talk. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. And today we have entrepreneur, business development, personal development, and keynote speaker, Mr. Joe Rockey. The name of his business is Elite Business Conversations. And he's here to let us know exactly what it is we need to be successful in your line of work. And what we do is we get individuals from time to time to show the different aspect on a different side of managing your business, especially here in the automotive space, because we have a lot of mechanics who are walking away from the dealership and the workshop environment, and they want to somehow own and operate their own shops. However, you will actually need the fundamentals in order to manage it, because some way, somehow down the line, the objective is to grow your business, get more clients, get more vehicles in, because in the service side of it, there is the throughput, and service managers concentrate on getting that maximum capacity in the shop at all times. Parts managers are the one who follow up on those appointment systems, and we try to emphasize, hopefully, having the parts right there on time. And manufacturers have gone the length of the time now, try to develop a system called just-in-time manufacturing, where the parts are available for the mechanics, for the parts department, hopefully for a faster turnaround, so the customers can go in and out based on their allotted time. And of course, the flat rate system is working just as essential, so you can get your money's worth and everyone is happy, because at the end of the day, we're looking to build customer relationships and increase that customer retention, which unfortunately a lot of dealerships are falling short of because of the amount of complaints we're seeing. So, Joe, can you tell us particularly what are some of the challenging projects you worked on in the past, and how did you overcome any of these obstacles? But I wanted to tie that in to let the audience know exactly who you are.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm Joe Rockey, so I appreciate that. I love your introduction there because so many people are doing exactly what you said here. They're recognizing that we're in a situation, working in a dealership in this case, where it's not really working out. You know, it's not good. I mean, let's face it. And a lot of us have had this experience where, and myself included, where I'm working somewhere and I know it's not being done right, but that doesn't mean I know how to make my own. And what I'd really like to help all of you, all the listeners today, is really let's dive into how that process could look like. It's very foreign in some capacities, but it's also kind of easy once you get over this little entry hurdle of getting there in terms of the knowledge base. The capital required in terms of cash is going to wildly vary based on what part of the country you're in. It's going to be much less expensive if you're in Iowa than if you're in Manhattan. But nonetheless, the point being is the skill set is what I can help you with here, and then hopefully be able to give a little bit of idea of where you might be able to get the capital. So to answer your starting question in terms of challenges that people have that I've gone through that are going to apply here, is that every business, when we look at it, regardless of what they're selling, whether we're talking about McDonald's selling fries or the dealership selling BMWs, has three required components. The first required component is people need to know who my business is and have a desire to come check it out. The second required component is when they're actually with me, do they have a desire to stay and exchange services, money for fixing my car, money for burgers, whatever. And then the third part is, do we have the expertise to deliver what we say we're going to? And the vast majority of business owners in this country only live in that last space of, I have the expertise. And that is incredibly important. We live in a world now where if you're not doing quality work, you might as well not show up. Yeah. And as I'm speaking out there to the mechanics and the people in the auto world that want to create their own entity, it normally starts with, I'm doing good work and not getting celebrated for it. Either I'm not getting compensated right for it, I'm not getting the appreciation I should for it, and therefore I want to go into my own space to do it. So all of those mentalities that you have, that how you wish it was, you need to bring those with you. Like, I'm going to treat my lead mechanics this way, and I'm going to want to make sure that they get paid in this fashion for this types of duties. So you never want to discount that. What the initial problems that you're living through now and those feelings, they're real. Sure, some of them might be specific to you, but in general, many other people have them as well in terms of the way you're treated and compensated. Because we all are individuals, we're all people, and we all want to have positive relationships. So then the question goes from, I have this skill set, I'm really good at this, this is my expertise. How do I get people to want to come to my business, and how do I get people to actually buy it? And that's before we even get into these problems of how do we have the parts to fix it? Because obviously what we're dealing with is a wide array of problems that now get thrown into your plate by having it. Not to mention we need to pay rent for whatever our garage is or our dealership is. So the first thing that you're going to want if you're looking at creating a new business is figuring out what's going to make you different. What do you do that you like doing? Is it a specific brand of car, a specific type of repair? What is that thing that resonates with you that you can do better than where you're at now? And it might just be, I can do it all better and I will treat everyone better along the way. That's totally fine. But you need to kind of hammer it in that first.
Yeah.
What wants to be the soul of your business? What is driving you?
Yes.
And your partnership group. Because the other reality is you're probably not going to do this yourself. And that's not a problem. So you're going to be creating your own baby here in this business. But the simple fact is that while we're great in the product repair side of the business, very rarely will be great in everything. So inevitably, we're going to need to be partnered up, whether they're equity partners or employees, that people that are good in other areas. So is someone going to be able to run the purchasing side of it for the parts that need to come in, and possibly also be the face of the company for answering the phone calls for scheduling? That's normally the introductory spot for when we see people who are creating their own garages. So they're going to have an assistant, sometimes it's a girlfriend, sometimes it's a wife, that basically is going to run the internet, get me the parts I need, pick up the phone when the customers call up, and get people scheduled. Now, there is 1.5 billion different internet websites that will do some of that stuff for you, or sometimes even all of it. What I recommend to everyone is find the thing that works for you. Don't be afraid to try something, and if it doesn't work out, go away from it. That's not the end of the world. You're not marrying the internet site you're buying your website from. So don't try to feel that if you made a slip up that it's not going to work. But in essence, if you figure out the passion of what makes me want to do this, what makes me going to be good at this, that's the first step. Because then it just becomes, how do I let other people feel the same feelings I have? There's millions of ways to do that. And that's going to be kind of dependent upon your local area, obviously, and who you're trying to get as your clientele. So you just go, well, where does my normal person interact with? Do they go on Twitter a lot? Do they go on Facebook a lot? Or they listen to this radio station, that radio station? And you just kind of create a little ways that are inexpensive where I can reach out to people. And those tend to be the best starting points. Twitter ads, YouTube ads, Facebook ads. And all it really is someone holding a phone in front of you, filming you, doing something you want. I am not saying you are making a Super Bowl commercial here. You're just being really basic. This is me. This is why I'm building this. Come check out our garage. And then basically you have done the first step. You have shown people you exist and given them a reason to come check you out. Number 2 is, for some guys, a big problem. For some guys, it's nothing. It's a personality thing. You got to keep your space clean for where the clients are going to come in. You need to have at least some type of showroom interaction space that's clean. Yes, the rest of your garage is going to have oil all over the place and all the muck and the grime. That's fine. You need to have at least one clean space. And again, I get some guys have that down to a T, and some guys are like, Joe, that's the stupidest idea I ever had. It's a requirement. You just got to suck up and deal with it. I'm sorry, it's the cost of doing business. But in there, that's normally where you have your front desk person, and they could be doing all the internet stuff that I just said. In terms of your pricing, this is where most people get really scared. They will undercharge in the beginning because they're trying to essentially buy clients, if you will. And that's 100% what not to do. That will kill you before you even start. You need to put prices appropriate to what you're doing. So at the end of the day, you have knowledge, you have passion, and you have skills. Make sure that your labor rate that you are charging, obviously you're charging for the parts as well, is in conjunction to what the rate for your area is. And it probably should be at least 10% higher. And the reason for that is multifold. First, when you charge more, people inherently have this thought process, they must be better. And let me tell you firsthand, if you were actually going to go through this process, go on your own, create your own business, you are better, period. So charge it. And once you do that, you actually will have a client base that will naturally start developing. The second thing you do is after you deliver your product, I've just finished up repairing your car, have your person who's in charge of parts also give a call to that individual who you just serviced, that customer, and ask for referrals. Say, hey, we just fixed up your car. How's it driving? Is it feeling good? Is there anyone else you know that has a car like yours? They don't need to have the exact same BMW, but they need to have the same style of car. And the next thing you know, you either have a shop full of Escalades and Suburbans, or you have a shop full of sports cars. And then you can even more specialize. Say, hey, we're the SUV destination. Not only do we fix the thing up, we can pimp it out like Jay-Z if you want. And you do whatever element you want to become specialized in. Some people obviously do body work, drive shaft, whatever you're the best at, you do. And the thing is, the more specialized you get, the more you can charge on the back end. So you see how growth then can come easily. You can't hire more people if you don't have money to hire them. You can't have the money if you don't charge more people. And you can't charge more people if they aren't there. Starting point. What is my passion? Tell people about it. They'll get there. Charge at least 10% more on your labor rates. That will give you the money. Then once you have a customer base, figure out what you keep doing for people and specialize in it. If 60% of your clients are all doing basically the same thing, specialize in it. And if obviously the more intense the work is in terms of difficulty of doing, the better. Yeah. A routine oil change is nice, you'll get money for it, but overhauling a customized package is obviously certainly better. So that's the real quick breadth overview of how this can be done. And it all starts with the confidence of knowing you got this and being able to articulate it and have that soul within you of having it come out.
Yeah, absolutely motivational, because you touched on one of the first things you touch on is the appreciation. And that's what a lot of mechanics don't feel when they're working in a large garage environment, particularly dealerships, because they come there and they put out their best, and the payment system that is there, the compensation system or the commission system that is there right now doesn't allow them to feel that sense of warmth and appreciation that, they are valued. So a lot of them just say, you know what, the hell with this, they're moving on. Another thing you also mentioned is that it's very easy for them to move on and to start their own, because when you're talking about a motor vehicle, it has so many components to start a niche market. You can specialize in just oil changes. You can specialize in brakes. You can specialize in transmission. You can specialize in air conditioning. You can specialize in upholstery. There's so many components of the vehicle itself that you can go ahead and say, hey, I'm the guy who is the specialist in this. Come to me and I'll let it work. Another aspect of it is that starting the business in today's environment is so much easier. It's not like before where you will need this large, elaborate brick and mortar situation. A lot of guys start doing it, just build their client base on social media alone, because you have so many guys out there, DIY mechanics who just go out there and they're giving examples of how to do certain things in aspects. I've seen guys who move from 0 to over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube alone just by doing basic work and putting the information out there, and then they're able to move into their own garage and have those very same clients coming to them to have their car serviced. So one of the aspects is don't be afraid to go out there and take the risk, because it is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, so sometimes people get the fear of, if I show people how to do this, they're not going to come to me. But the reality is actually the opposite. They're going to get a great appreciation if they try this. So think about how few people in this country can actually change their tires. And at the end of the day, it's not a super complicated process.
Yeah.
Lift the car off the ground, spin it a couple times, pop off 2 different tires. Most people cannot do that. Like they just won't allow themselves to do it. And having seen you on YouTube showing them how to do it creates an actual bond that you don't get with any other form of advertising. It shows that you're an expert, you know how to do this. They've heard your voice a little bit, they've seen how you work, and they're like, you know what? I'm comfortable going to this guy. I mean, it might not have worked for me doing what he said, but that's not the point. Point is, I interacted with him, even if it's watching him, and now I feel more comfortable, and I'm more likely to go to him than somewhere else.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's coming around the corner here that I don't think it's really a shock to anyone is the economy is about to get really, really bad.
Yeah.
And if you can be one of these guys that can say, hey, I can get you X more years out of your car by doing this, and not just saying that, hey, it's not going to fall off the road, like it'll still be functional, but I can make it feel young again. I can give your car a facelift. Like that is something that the market will be wanting, because the ability to go out and buying the new car is going to diminish, but people still like having that feeling of newness. And if you can do like, hey, I can reupholster your car, maybe tint some windows here, give it a new scheme for, affordable amount, that's a built-in niche that is out there right now that people will really be able to take advantage of, and it'll be there for a while.
Yeah. It is that aspect of it. But if I should go a little bit further into the dealership environment itself, and most mechanics who are working in other industries, say for instance aviation, they're currently doing engineering, they're working in other industries that applies a little bit of the mechanics, but most of them started out working at a dealership, and they are able to get all that experience and training from both the manufacturer and the dealership itself, the hands-on situation, and they're able to, adopt into those particular environments. Because I said it from time to time, engineers build and the mechanics are the ones who keep this world moving, right? And the appreciation is basically not there, because every single thing, let me give you a perfect example. Every single thing that you're benefiting from right now was brought to you by a truck driver.
Yes, 100%.
100%. Everything that you have, you go on Amazon, everything you already, the truckers are the ones who bring the items from state to state and from country to country, from Mexico to the United States to here in Canada. However, the mechanics are the one who keep those vehicles on the roads. Because if it breaks down, you have mobile mechanics out there working in treacherous conditions to get that truck moving again in order to get that bread on the table for you. You understand? And so forth. So it's just that the appreciation aspects of it. However, but when they're working in the dealership environment, and I saw it on your website where the leadership aspect of it coming in terms of the new leadership type, they're not as experienced as before, where persons will actually go to school and learn about managing people, managing different aspects of the business itself, learn the business plan, learn how to do a SWOT analysis. It's as easy as that. However, how do we transition that information down to, the mechanics and say, look, you can do this too by building your own. And by building your own, you'll be doing a great contribution to the wider society by employing an apprentice to come and work with you, because there's no mastery without an apprentice, because you'll be paying it forward as always, because there's always to find a way how to give back, not only to think about yourself, but also because you're keeping so many people safe on the roads on a day-to-day basis. You also play a vital part to the society itself. However, in the dealership environment, we don't see that, because you have, nepotism is running rife in the dealership environment. A guy gets at the executive position, when you check his background, he's never been in that particular situation before. He was a used car salesman somewhere else. But a dealership environment is totally different, because you have to keep abreast of the ever-changing environment that is out there and the constant government regulations that keep coming in. Because look at it now, and I may be going off tandem a bit, but various governments across the world are now giving mandates to manufacturers to say, look, after 2035, we should have no more ICE vehicles on the road. That is ICE meaning that internal combustion engines. We're all gonna go electric, and then they have to be scampering right now to find the raw materials to build these cars, find the expertise to maintain these cars on the road, and then it's also looking at in every advantage there's a disadvantage. In everything you do, there's a cause and effect, because building those cars, you have to find the materials from somewhere else, and that is also eroding the environment itself. However, mechanics, it comes all the way back to the mechanics. At the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to maintain those vehicles and keep them on the road and running for us to live the lives that we want to live. So I just wanted to throw that out there, to have everyone understand how important we are all connected into this situation.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Everything you just said is 100% right. And quite frankly, trying to get rid of the internal combustion engine is probably going to be not as green economically as they think it will be. Yeah. That's a side story. It's very hard to mine lithium in a green fashion. It's actually better what comes out of your emissions than that process. Exactly. But that's a digression. To answer your question about being appreciated in your workplace and with your work, you already have that as being in the dealership world and seeing what they're doing wrong. As someone who's going to go out and create their own garage or their own empire here. So what I would say to that is essentially remember what they were doing wrong to you and how you would want to replace it. Because the majority of things as being the mechanic and creating your own garage, there's a lot of latitude in what you can make. You can 100% control how you treat your employees. I mean, you can be completely nice and kind, or you can be a bastard. Either option's on the table, and we see the directions that don't work. So what really happens is, why do people not feel appreciated? Well, in general, it's because you get someone from the outside telling you how to do your business and not appreciating you having your insights and how to do it. So yes, there is some mechanical things, like it has to be done in this order and this is the work that needs to be done. But there's also a lot of latitude, as any guy will know when they're working on their cars and various other projects. I can feel it the way I want to do it, as long as it gets back in the right assembly order and it's working at the end of the day. Does it really matter? Like how I felt like doing it, or the order or whatever. So as long as it's all good, and where people can create a culture there where they are appreciated, is you give people who are experienced and expertise the ability to show it. So as you're going through teaching someone beyond you, your apprentice example, you gradually give them more and more opportunity to present themselves, more and more opportunity. And it probably will not be exactly how you did it. And at the end of the day, you need to have the appreciation to say it works, and that's what matters. Now, if they're doing something that's patently wrong, you obviously need to correct that. I'm not trying to say you can cut corners here, but I'm saying there are different ways to do different things, and you let people explore it. And then you might say after the fact, you did it this way, I would have recommended it this way, or you might have just learned a way better way of doing it that you never thought of, that just got taught to you. And guess what happens? You've now just listened to your apprentice and you have made him feel much better off. And it's now an environment where he's respected and cared about because he can contribute to it. He's not just a cog in the machine where he's just tightening gears. He's actually giving insight to how to make the projects better. And that's really how you build a culture. You trust the people around you. And secondarily on that note, this kind of goes underlying, and it's assumptive in there. You have to be hiring someone who's going to replace you across the board, because at some point you're going to get sick, you're going to need to go to a funeral, and do you want your entire business to shut down because you weren't there? And this is a mistake that a lot of first-time business owners have. They get so worried about expenses that they lose track of revenue. The most important thing in this entire equation is revenue. Whether it's coming from the same 3 customers over and over again, or 5 million customers, revenue is more important than expenses. So if you can hire people that lead to more revenue, you want to ultimately hire as many of them as possible because that's how you grow. And that is a mindset shift that needs to exist in every business owner. Because if you're constantly worried about the size of the checks you're cutting out the door,
Yes.
over what's coming in the door, you are destining yourself for failure. So that's a common mistake that every company makes, and it's something that you can avoid up front by just be willing to say, hey, I'm going to be willing to hire an extra guy that I might not be able to afford right now, but I'm going to trust that he's going to get good enough, he's going to get better, and at the end of the day, he'll be able to run this place one day, or maybe at least for at least 6 months. He'll be able to at least help me with 6 extra cars.
Exactly.
That I been able
that is definitely encouraging, because I've done a number of articles and videos on how challenging it is to find mechanics, but also that the younger generation, the youth, the guys fresh out of high school, they don't want to get into the industry as well. So dealerships have to be going into the high schools. I've done a story where dealerships have to go into the high school and sponsor programs, getting young men to start learning the basics of mechanics, and hopefully they have the scholarship programs allows them to come into the dealership to get a job, and then the dealership will send them on to automotive school to get the necessary required certification and everything else. So before we go, what would you say to something like that, encouraging the young men mostly, but the younger generation? So because everybody can do the job these days, how would you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is specific to guys in the way our biology brain is built. We live in a world that wants to become more and more digital. You want to sit on your phone, you want to play on your screens, and there's certainly a place for that. I'm not trying to diminish that wholesale, but there is a need, like I said, especially in men, to do analog activities, something where you're actually creating something, where I showed it at the beginning of the day, and by the end of the day, I made a material change and I can see what happened. And you don't get that from typing up a Word document in the same way that you get from fixing a transmission or from replacing a front end of a damaged vehicle.
Exactly.
And there is something that society is irrevocably failing and lying when they say that that's not important. As a man, it's almost a need on the same level as any of the other basic needs a young man can think that they want - need at this point in their life. Fixing things with your hands is one of them. And it will give you so much long-term joy, it's not even funny. Plus, because you're going against the grain, if you will, from what your other peers are doing, inherent economics of supply and demand mean that you will, which is already true right now in Pennsylvania, be paid more than lawyers. So you get to do something that's better for your mind and your soul, and you get more money. I mean, there's not too many situations.
Keeps you active, keeps you very active.
It will. It'll be better for your mind, your soul, and all the rest of it.
This is something encouraging, and I may sound a little bit irrational here, but I've hardly seen overweight mechanics. They're all in good physical shape.
Yeah, I mean, you're moving around all the time. And
you're lifting heavy stuff. Yeah, it is the way it is. Yes. So even though it's tiresome, but your mind is always at work. So I mean,
you're constantly solving problems and you're doing things, and that's part of the culture you want to create. Because the downside of this is what the dealerships do, where they just put you into doing one robotical thing over and over again. And this is why I would encourage someone to work for more than a dealership who's going to put you in that system. If it's a smaller dealership where you're doing multiple things all the time, that's what you want. Or a garage, whatever the case may be. But something where you're doing a breadth of different activities. And all of the jobs, I know this is specific about auto, but all of the jobs that have this common thread are what you see we're running out of. All of the tradesmiths, all of the plumbers, electricians, carpenters, there's less and less of them. But this is actually what makes especially a man's soul thrive. And it's something that, like I said, that's not a politically correct thing to say, but it's true. It's the way that it is. And if I were out there, I would absolutely say that. I have a nephew who's right now, he's 2 years away from going to college, and he wants to become a welder. And I'm telling him this, and to the young people out there, I was like, if you want to learn how to be a welder, that's cool, but why don't you consider doing it in the Marines, where you get to be paid to be a Marine, paid to run around, but then you, after 4 years, you get the whole veteran service the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And the same thing is true with mechanics. It's not like they don't need their Humvees fixed. In fact, actually, what do you think is a better way of training? Fixing up a tank or anything else? So
Yeah.
I recommend that to anyone out there who's in the state of.
And welders right now are in high demand here in Toronto. Very high demand. Yeah.
Like I don't want to be sitting in a lecture hall and having to write papers all the time, because that's just stupid. Well, you're probably right. It's probably not the right fit for you. Get paid a ton of money. Don't have any education debt on your soul, and then get to do something awesome and productive for the rest of your life.
For the rest of your life. No student debt.
Exactly. And if you're able to treat people well along the way, you'll be absolutely perfect, and you'll have yourself whatever direction you want to take your life, you'll have full control over it. And I guess this is my final thought, and probably the most important element behind it. Skills are what get people paid. Theories do not. And most people go to college or university to get a theory, and that doesn't get you paid. Skills do, and that's it.
Word to the wise.
As I said, I would strongly encourage anyone that's young, anyone who's, you don't have to be young. I mean, that's the other part. Like there's this myth that you have to do that.
No,
but there are so many guys at jobs right now that they're sitting in front of a desk. They're just feeling empty. There's just not a better way to say it. And working with your hands solves so much of that. So much of that. And, for whatever reason, people don't appreciate that. But I got to tell you, that's going to change, because it fixes this emptiness and need that people have. And I strongly encourage anyone who's sitting out there, maybe not in the automotive world right now, but listening and thinking about, what would it be like to become a mechanic, to look into it, because obviously the money will be nice, but the intangible perks that people don't realize what they're signing up for when they go to law school or something like that.
Mechanics are in high demand right now. Mm-hmm. And even plumbers, you call a plumber here in Toronto, it takes sometimes 2 to 3 days for them to come to you while your pipe is gushing or your basement is being flooded out. That's how short, that's the type of shortage we're facing over here right now. And then if you look around, you have, I'm not sure how it is there in Pennsylvania, but downtown Toronto, you have a skyscraper, a condominium building, apartment building going up on every single corner. And then if you look into that, they all have elevators. And if you look into that, there's a shortage of elevator mechanics. Who's going to repair and maintain and work on those when they break down? You get what I'm saying? So people are not seeing the bigger picture. And that is why it is also with us men. We are the ones who are able to see the bigger picture and have the vision and look into things 10, 15, 20 years from now and say, okay, this is what is going to happen. Years from now, I need to start doing this. But only a few can capitalize on it. And that is why, you have so much of a disparity between the rich and the poor, because guys were able to take action years ago and reap the fruits of the benefits now. And we're encouraging a lot of people, look, get into this situation, try to learn X, Y, Z to see how much we can capitalize on this in the near future. And we have to encourage our younger generation, especially young men, to say, try to take advantage of what is happening now. Forget about content creating and becoming an influencer, because if you're not using your hands, you're going to be left behind. And you said that so passionately earlier, which, I can't emphasize it much more than how you put it together.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And this, you look at any time there's an opportunity, it's not going to be just for you. I mean, that's the other part of this is you did a very good job of articulating the need for mechanics, how everything in our lives come via a truck and it's always transported to us. But it also is going to enhance everyone in our friend circle and our family circle, because the more successful you are, the more it bleeds to those around you. You become inherently confident when you build a business. You become inherently confident when I just fixed something that was literally destroyed before I started and now it's running. Like, people couldn't figure out why this engine wasn't going, and now I got it going, 90 miles an hour down the highway.
Mm.
Well, that was because of me. And there's great success and accomplishment you get
Yeah.
from that you don't get from, oh, I fixed the stock report, I made 2 extra% this year. You don't get that. You get that from working with your hands and solving problems. And to the guys who are experiencing the work culture problem, you fix that by empowering those around you. And the thing is that empowering the apprentices around you ends up being the same type of thing, just with relationships. Your result isn't now the car is running when it wasn't running before. It's now I taught this person who's under me how to have a better life. And this is the skill set foundation they can build that life upon. At the end of the day, they have something that they can, no matter how comes hell or high water, he can go and fix a transmission. And there's always going to be a car that needs a transmission fixed.
Yeah.
So something might not go perfect and he might have a down time, but at least I know he has a skill that'll be able to get him out of this no matter what. And computer engineering might not be it. YouTube content creating will not be it. But being able to fix things and build things will be it.
Will be it. Yeah. On a final note, we have in Toronto here, we have tire season. I know it's also available over there in the States in the harsh winter conditions. You have to change out your seasonal tires to your winter tires, and it's big business. And they advertise every single year for apprentices to just come in and then just change out tires. All they're doing is swapping tires in and out, in and out. You have guys here who just do it seasonally as well. They open their garage 3 months a year, just changing tires, close down back until the following year, but they make so much money just by swapping tires alone. All right. And the other point I wanted to make on my YouTube channel, I have a series called How Engineers Keep Mechanics Miserable. I came up with that title just to be mischievous. However, if you look at how the cars are manufactured, but they're manufactured based on project managers who put together a project, and they have to do the operational accounting system to try to cut costs as much as possible. So they fit engines and try to do the transmission and the front end parts in such a tightly knit space because they're trying to cut down on costs. However, the mechanics are the ones who have to go into those tight spaces to remove and replace those parts. And they show you on those videos every single day, look, this is absolute bullshit. I have to do this, and this to get to this. And I'm only getting paid only $20 an hour. And this is a 4-hour job. This makes no sense. So I have a number of them that I've put there just to show individuals, these are what they have to do to keep you safe. This is what they have to do, the different processes they have to do in order to get to a particular part. And some of these items actually make no sense, but it brings to light exactly the day-to-day aspect of their jobs and what they have to do in order to keep us moving. So that I just wanted to finalize and finish off on that.
I hope you also highlight in there at some point the stupid things the government makes them do that has actually no practical benefit to it. I mean, you went through how the engineers do it, but some of what they have to do, unfortunately, is mandated to them by laws, by politicians who really don't know all that much when it really comes said and done. So I do hope you spotlight that every once in a while. But I love the title because it's true. It's really, really true.
Okay, I'm glad I entertained a lot of people with it. I've been getting a lot of reviews on it, and it's absolutely entertaining for some. But Joe, I want to thank you very much. This has been a very enlightening conversation. Hopefully, my audience will take away a lot and apply it to them as much as possible. And I look forward to us continuing conversations such as these, because one thing you can't take away from, well, especially persons like yourself, is the knowledge that you have to share for us, and we really appreciate it.
Well, I thank you. I hope that we gave value to people out there, and anyone who is thinking about creating their own shop, anyone who's looking for advice about how to create their own business, and that's really what we do at elitebusinessconversations.com. So reach out to us. We'll have a little 10-minute chat, and then we'll see what direction we could be and see if we'd be a good fit for each other.
Definitely. So Joe, thank you again, and I wish you all the best, and I hopefully you have as many clients as possible to keep their business going.
That's the goal. Whatever you're doing the descriptions, whether it be YouTube or audio, what you want to do is just the first 3 sentences, kind of summarizing everything with all the keywords you want to have in it. And ideally, a couple of emotional adjectives, like frustration, aggravation, happiness, joy, whatever the stuff that the episode's conveying. And then immediately after those 3 sentences, I write timestamps, but I guess you don't have to. But the way you do timestamps, it always starts with 00:00 as like a starting point. Then whatever the title of the episode is goes right there. And then carrying on throughout the episode, every 2 to 4 minutes or so, whenever the topic shifts, you say whenever that conversation began, you put that timestamp in. So say it happened at the 2 minute 34 second. You would write 02:34 and then the new title for what that is. And what that gives is a more opportunity for Google to find you. It's all about Google's search engine, and they made it that if the words the first 100 characters after a timestamp are treated the exact same way as a title. So it makes it way more likely people will find it. And it makes it also those little dots you see on the bottom of YouTube shows come from this. This is how you make them. And incredibly beneficial. Can't say enough about it. Like I said, for me, it's exploded the amount of people have found us. So it works. And it also gives you things looking back of what part do people like and why do they like it, so you can guide your future episodes.
Yeah. Just put titles to the different timestamps in it.
I keep them about 70, 50 to 70 characters or so is kind of the sweet spot. So there's enough that you can write stuff, but they're also not, super long. Throw an emoji or two in there too. For some reason, people like those.
A lot to unpack. Joe, yeah. I want to thank you. Really appreciate it.
Well, I hope that it helps. And like I said, I really hope that there's a couple of guys out there who are able to start their own. Because I was in that same spot of I wasn't appreciated at all. I hated my work. And, if they can encourage one other guy to say, you know what, I'm doing my own thing and I'm going to make a better culture for guys around me. That's a ripple effect that you can't measure.
And I thank you very much, Joe.